And wouldn't you know it, we have a call. And 1 second. Hey, this is the Orange Black Insider. Who's this?
Hey, this is Fatal Content, man. Miami Bengals. How you doing?
What's going on, brother? John, you may not know, but Fatal Content was a guy that loyal Bengal fan and a guy that listened to another podcast I was on religiously, called in, and was always an active listener. So I'm glad you have migrated to our show, my friend. How have you been?
Oh, man, I've been good. It was an easy migration. I saw someone tweeted me, actually. I didn't even know this show was going on. Someone tweeted me a few days ago, weeks ago, and told me, you need to get back on the show. I've been taking calls. I was like, oh, I didn't even know. So glad to be back, man.
Well, good to have you back. Good to hear from you. Been a little while here. Before we get to your question or comment, we're going to ask you the question of the night, and I don't know if you were here when we asked it. Basically, it's kind of who would have been the best in the what could have been linebacker, and we asked if Taquito Spikes had stayed from 2003 on, if Odell Thurman kept his nose clean and stayed with the Bengals for a while, or Vontaze Burfict if he had stayed away from injury and suspension issues. Who do you think would have been the productive Bengal linebacker, bar none?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I have to say Odell Thurman because of what he could have been, and he actually is out. It's hard to go about that because he still has a load ahead of him to be that guy. So I'd have to subtract him for that. But if it comes down to it, I agree with you guys. Odell, for the same reasons you guys said, I won't win it. Yeah,
and what could have been with that guy? Jeez. Well, what's on your mind tonight? What can we answer for you?
Just a couple things to keep it short, man. I think this team, like we always say, to me, what they do now doesn't really matter in terms of, honestly, in the grand scheme of things. I think the playoffs is what's really the answer with these guys. We've seen this before. But I will give them the credit that they're turning corners. They're answering questions. I mean, Andy Dalton, under pressure this weekend where he could have folded and folded the tent, so to say, he came back and made some throws in the grass, scrambled out of the pocket, showed a lot of toughness, as he has all year. Also, we're slaying demons. We're having a lot of comebacks on the primetime thing. I think we're finally starting to quiet that down now. This Kansas City game would be huge. But I think they're starting to play some demons up into the playoffs. I think they're at least proving themselves for now. But to me, the playoffs is what matters.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, these are two huge weeks coming up here against the Steelers and Chiefs, respectively. And two big games, two big litmus tests for the Bengals to really prove kind of where they're at. And, you know, it's kind of like my co-host John said, at some point you got to start winning these games in order to be real. I mean, even the people that are ranking them high and all this kind of stuff, what's the asterisk they always give at this point right now? Well, you know, they can't win the big game. They can't win the big game. So I think this team, more than anything, aside from talent and showing some intestinal fortitude, I think they're showing, you know, that they're not phased very easily. They're not, you know, they can figure it out. They can come back and in a lot of different scenarios and get a win. Your prediction for this week's game before we get you out of here, Fatal?
Oh, you know, I want to put a bonus in front of it, man. I kind of want to go Bengals 27-13.
Ooh.
That's what I want to go, but
ooh.
I think I'll go a little bit more realistic. I think I'll say 27-20.
All right.
I wouldn't be shocked 27-13. I want that, but I think 27-20.
All right. You heard it. You heard it from Fatal. Good to hear from you again, man. Hope those boys from the U are treating you all right.
Oh, man, now that you bring that up, I'll just be quick. It was a great weekend. I was going to say that because it was a double comeback in back-to-back days for me when it seemed bleak. It was amazing. It was a great weekend.
Well, that's a good weekend for you then, yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, good to hear from you. Call back anytime, and hope you can join us weekly again, Fatal. Good to hear from you, buddy.
All right, man. You guys done a great job. Have a good one.
All right, thanks. Who freaking dare? That's Fatal Content giving us a call on the Orange and Black Insider line. John, And, he's been a long-time listener, so he said in the YouTube chat that he wanted to call in, and I hadn't heard from him for a long time, so definitely wanted to hear from him. I want to get to some of these texts here. Again, we had one yesterday, John. People are so
you guys gotta chill, man. Anthony's just living his life outside the podcast.
Hey, living the best life, bro. Well, to be honest, this is from someone from Hawaii. So we had someone from Miami just call us in, and then we've got someone on the other side from Hawaii. So Hawaii's mellow. They got a lot of time to think about stuff and hang out. It's from and by the way, I was in Maui this summer, so I love Hawaii. I'm a big Hawaii guy. Chi Hude from Hawaii, and this is a good one I think for you specifically, John. Can you talk about the impact Alex Van Pelt has had on Andy Dalton? And there's a reason, he says there's a reason why Aaron Rodgers wasn't so happy to see him go in Green Bay. Aloha. Everybody's talking about Andy Dalton's uptick in play, rightfully so. Everybody's talking about Bill Lazor and how he's putting Andy Dalton in a position to succeed. Nobody is talking about Alex Van Pelt, and I think that is a gigantic get and a gigantic piece of the puzzle. Am I wrong about that, John?
No, I don't think so. And I don't scoff at the fact that the greatest thrower of the football all time is upset about losing his quarterback coach when he's like 33 years old. But I think there was some type of impact that Rodgers had with Van Pelt. And the biggest thing with Dalton is this: I saw him like on Twitter, like Dalton's stats against the blitz. His pass rating is like top 2 in the league, and that's impressive and all. But that's not anything new with Dalton specifically. He's always been good at identifying blitzes pre-snap, going to the hot reads quick, getting the ball out quickly, and that leads to deficiency. The problem with Dalton was dealing under when the pocket kind of collapses when it's not a blitz, when it's like a 4 or 3 man rush, and that comes to the testament of extending plays. Getting your feet reset after dodging rushes. And that's something that Aaron Rodgers to the Packers is so great at. And that's what makes him such a great player, is that he's able to extend plays, going to his left, going to his right, kind of makes his offensive line look better because he's able to avoid a lot of those sacks that some quarterbacks don't. And that's the biggest improvement that we've seen from Dalton. And that could easily be attributed to Van Pelt's, techniques of, teaching him better techniques to face pressure, to face, 4 or 3 man blitzes, when they're trying to contain him, and just making plays on his own, because he's done a fantastic job this year compared to the first, 7 years of his career. And that very well could be a testament to Van Pelt.
Great observation in terms of Dalton under pressure and, what he's been able to do. I see a lot more accuracy on the run. I see a lot more stuff on, rollouts and stuff like that. I don't think that's all Alex Van Pelt. I think that's obviously Lazor kind of playing to strengths and potentially weaknesses up front on the offensive line. But he looks comfortable. Yeah. Dalton does, and he looks. I think we can look at Bill Lazor a lot for sure, but I think Alex Van Pelt is a guy that definitely has had an impact. We've got one more call, and then we're gonna get out of here. It's from our good buddy. Terrell, right? Terrell, how are you, sir?
How you doing, man?
Good to hear from you again. What's on your mind?
Just real quick about this week's game and every game. Basically, I think if they can play their game, I think they can actually kind of like they're doing now. I really do think this is the time. I think they need to stop letting them bully them, stop letting them embarrass them. It's time for us to clear ourselves. Like, I really do think so. And real quick about the Dolphins game. I was actually at the Dolphins game.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. Y'all saying it?
What?
I was actually at the Dolphins game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if y'all guys saying it, but Jesse Bates was telling Drake Kirkpatrick signals and telling him what to do and get him in good position.
Interesting.
Let you know, and I think he should be like, defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah. So by a lot of metrics, and I'll let John chime in here in just a second too. By a lot of metrics, Jesse Bates is one of the top if you like Pro Football Focus and their scoring, he's one of the better rookies this year, up there with like Derwin James and all kinds of guys.
I mean, this guy, he's playing like Earl Thomas, I think. I really do think so. Like, he's playing like that. I mean, when I was at the game, I seen him was telling Draco Patrick, telling him to get position, all types of stuff. I was like, man, this guy's a smart guy. Like, but I think he's up for defensive rookie year. And I was just let you guys talk about whatever's going on, and I was just letting you know about this week's game or last week's game.
Well, you were in person. You were in person for a hell of a game there, Terrell. I hope you had a good time and enjoyed the Bengals comeback win. We're gonna get you off the air here and talk a little bit more about Jesse Bates. Appreciate you calling in as usual. Enjoy this Sunday, my friend.
Oh, thank you too.
All right, that was good friend Terrell calling the show. I wanted to ask you about that because you're a bit more of a film guru than I am, John. It's funny to me, you know, he mentions Earl Thomas and maybe even Eric Berry and stuff as as early on what Jesse Bates has looked like. To me, it's been very, very quiet, but he's had the couple of interceptions, and I think part of it is because the Bengals have let up some points and big plays. Mm-hmm. I've seen some confusion a little bit back there, but that's interesting that he noted that he saw him telling Dre where to go. I also saw guys go up late in the game, pre-snap to Vontaze Burfict to get confirmations on the read. And I'm talking secondary guys and other guys. I think 2 or 3 players at one time came up to Burfict to make sure they had the right read. Mm-hmm. Obviously noting Burfict's football IQ and how he can diagnose plays. Your thoughts on Jesse Bates, your thoughts on Burfict's value because of his football IQ?
Yeah, and the Bates is, his leadership qualities, his football intangibles. It's kind of like the unsung reason of why they were so confident with giving him George Iloka's spot. It wasn't just because he has more range and better ball skills than Iloka to handle a single high safety alignment, but also because just at only 21 years old, he's actually turning 22. When we're recording this, he's turning 22 in a couple hours. So at 21 years old, he came in immediately, apparently took the reins as one of the leaders in the secondary, as one of the youngest players on the whole team. And just like Terrell said, he's getting guys in position and he's diagnosing plays immediately and he's making plays on the ball. And, for the lack of success that they've had in terms of giving up a lot of plays in the passing game, Bates hasn't really been targeted that much. And that's because he's able to cover so much ground and he's able to take away deep crossing routes, and he's able to cover a lot of ground in very minimal time. So not only has Bates, produced on the number sheets, but he's also produced with his brain, and that's very important. And that's kind of why they decided to go with him over Iloka. And when it comes to Burfict, it's not just the energy that we talked about, but it's also the fact that he can minimize his lack of athleticism with the way that he can read plays in an instant and make breaks on the ball. And if he had the athleticism of Luke Kuechly, he'd be right up there with Luke Kuechly, but he doesn't. But because he has the intangibles and the read and react skills of an all-pro player, that allows him to be in such great positions. That's why people kind of rally behind him, to make sure they're in the right spot. He's like the dad out there, basically, even if he makes a few bonehead mistakes. But it was definitely notable towards the end of the game. Burfict kind of kept everybody together. He kept that defense strong because they've only given up like 10 points all games. So they had a pretty good game. Now it's because Burfict kind of gelled it all together, and they made some crucial plays in the run game and the pass game because of him getting back into the swing of things. And that was great to see as well.
Yeah, and we talked about last week how when Burfict came back from an extended period to start the season before, it was against the Steelers. He had a monster game against the Steelers, and it helped the Bengals get that win. Luckily now the Bengals, Burfict has a week to knock off the rust, kind of get used to things as we go into the game against Pittsburgh, and he's not traveling. So he should be primed for a pretty decent game, I think, and I would hope. So, yeah, good stuff from Bates, good stuff from Vontaze. And, I think, interestingly enough, and you can call it a coincidence or not, but the Bengals defense was giving up 28 points a game going into Sunday. or a punt return notwithstanding and all that stuff, they gave up 10 points upon Vontaze Burfict's return against a team that was 3-1. Yeah, maybe not the most prolific offense in the league, but it says something. It says something to his value, and we'll see if that trend continues going forward. We're going to get out of here, and I just want to give some final thoughts, and you can comment on this, John. As you and I know, this is a labor of love. We do this for the site. We do this for the fans. It's not something that it's not my day job. It's something else that we do because we love the Bengals and we love the fans and the readers. And every once in a while, you get some comments that really pep you up and really make you feel good about what you're doing. And that was tonight. And I just want to throw this out there. D'Angelo Hankerson, welcome to the jungle, which is a very long name, but a good one. He writes, follow this podcast. This is the best podcast in our live YouTube chat. And then he says, Carl Benson follows it up with, these, quote, cats do a good job. I like that. And he said, yeah, they do a great job, honestly. So very, very much appreciated from you. And then, John, you got Andrew Seiler calls it the favorite part of his week. And he follows it up with, John, you are my hero and father. I'm glad you are now a regular on here. I'm assuming he's talking about you. Yeah. You're the Darth Vader. But we appreciate the comments, guys. Seriously. We do this. Yeah, we do it for us, and we do it because we're fans, but we also do it for you. That's why we love hearing from you on the text line and call line. Sorry we couldn't get to more tonight. We just ran out of time. But, John, in case you didn't see that in the YouTube chat, I wanted to share that with you. I thought that was very cool to hear from some of that, as well as getting some old faces back, like John from Kentucky and Fatal Content from previous podcasts that I've been on, having them follow. So, I don't know. I just wanted to share that with you, which I thought was very flattering.
I'm just grateful that these guys are willing to listen to 90 minutes of this podcast because it's a long time and it's a lot of content, but we work hard doing it. And just a quick note from me, whatever happens this on Sunday, I asked for the team to be the bigger man. In the comment section, whether if you're on like Steelers, SB Nation side, if you're on Twitter, just be civil. All right, we don't need to make this any worse. And I have confidence that our listeners are the good guys, and they're not going to be the guys that rile people up. But be a good example online, interacting with Steelers fans, no matter what happens, because we don't obviously want to escalate things to make it any further. We want to make this better. We want to make this rivalry better in the best way possible. So just be the bigger person. Don't incite the conflict. Be the person to resolve it. And that's all I can ask.
Yeah, and we're not talking about getting up on our soapboxes about high and mighty and holier than thou. But I mean, there's also the facet of the people that go to the games. There's always just going to be jerks that go to the games either way, and all of that stuff. So just you don't want to be the guy on Twitter feeds that's involved in some weird fight in the stands and all that kind of stuff. Just try and enjoy the game. I know there are people out there that are just jerks regardless, and especially when they get some beers in their system, it exacerbates it. But just try and be like John said. Just try and enjoy this game. And this has been an enjoyable season in general. A much more enjoyable season than the last two. So. Enjoy the ride and enjoy Sunday. And regardless of the outcome, there's still a lot of games left, including another one against Pittsburgh that the Bengals could potentially potentially steal from the Steelers later on. Just real quick, again, Kevin Evans, my favorite podcast and Bengals show. Thanks so much. Matthew Wayne Smith, John is all over, killing it. Yeah, you are all over, buddy. Jason Von Stein, great show, guys. Always a pleasure listening. And Brandon Batchelor, great podcast. I've been listening for almost 2 years now. That stuff is very cool. We're not saying this on the air to pat our own backs. We're saying this because we appreciate it, and we're just glad that you guys like John said. We're glad you like hearing us talk for an hour and a half about the Bengals, and we like getting you involved. Again, this is the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast. You can get it on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, CincyJungle.com. You can also get it on the Google Play app. Did I say iTunes? I think I said iTunes, but Art19 as well. There's so many. I always forget if I threw one in there or not. We're also on Twitter at Bengals OBI, so you can follow us on there and get all the content that you need, news, updates, analysis, commentary, opinions on CincyJungle.com. John and I are contributors there, and a lot of stuff coming up, especially it being Steelers week. Enjoy this Sunday coming up. Let's hope the Bengals come out with a win, 5-1, going into maybe an undefeated Chiefs team in Kansas City on Sunday night. And it's been a fun season, man. It's been a fun season. Thanks, John.
Let's keep it going.
All right. Thanks, everybody.